Hello everybody, welcome to P.B.M. Money. If you've been following me, you know that recently I just bought a little rental house, and this one needed a little bit of work, and I wanted to come to you today and tell you what we had to do, how much it cost, and the way we got this done in 2 weeks and ready to rent. Now, the first thing we did was when we went through the house, we made a mental list of everything that was going to need to be done. And we estimated what the prices of everything was going to be. My realtor is very good at this. He's done this for years. So he had me right in the right ballpark. Now, once we made the list, I went out and bought the material that we needed, and I had it at the house ready to go. After closing, I started having, well, before we closed, I started scheduling people to come in, and I got them, and I stayed on top to make sure that I was at the top of their list. So right after closing, we started. And we had, well, I'll tell you the list here. We had to, first off, I had to make sure that everybody stayed on schedule, that the salesman or the repairman, the construction people, the handyman, the cleaner, everybody was all on the same page. And that took a little bit, of coordination. But that was the key. Scheduling and staying on top of it was the key to getting this done. And we did all of this that I'm about to tell you, we did in 2 weeks. The half of the house had bad flooring, so we pulled all the flooring up and I laid new flooring. The other half of the house had wood floors, but they were really, really in bad shape. So I had somebody come in and they did 2 or 3 different treatments to them. One was to clean, one was to put moisture back in, and then one was to put a little finish on it. The garage, one whole wall of the garage had about 6 or 8 inches of siding that was completely missing. I mean, you could stand in the garage and look outside and see, and there was no anything. I mean, any critter could have gotten in there. So we had to build a whole wall on that side of the garage. The garage door was off of the rollers, so we had to put it back on the rollers, and then I had a guy come out and he checked it, greased it up, got it ready to go. The gutters had little trees growing in them, so we had to clean out the gutters, and I put gutter guards on there to keep stuff from, because there's a tree right there. So we put gutter guards on. We also put gutter drainage extensions on to keep the water away from the house. And also I had a load of dirt brought in and made a positive grade from the base of the house out to the yard so that the water that would run down the side of the house would not go down into the foundation, but would be pushed out into the yard. I also had to paint the laundry room. It wasn't really bad, but it was bad enough that if for the rent we were asking, and that would turn somebody off, so I did that. Also had to paint the inside and outside and sides of both outside doors. And when I say sides, because they had put new doors on, that was true, but they didn't paint them, and you could see the 2 parts where they met with the door, so that all had to be painted. And believe it or not, that turned out to be a pretty big job. That took about 4 different coats of paint because they were metal doors. So in order to get them to look right, and we were changing colors from, I think they were a dark gray to white, so that took some effort. We also had about a 20-foot long, probably longer than that, probably 40 foot long driveway that had weeds in it. There was no gravel left. So I had gravel brought in, and we had to have the gravel spread. The north side of the house had a fungus growing on it, and it was all green, so I had to have the entire house power washed. In the back, they had boarded over a window, and there was a big square in the siding that didn't have siding on it that needed to be repaired. So we had to get that. We had to find the right kind, and then cut it and measure it and all that. Then when we had all of the repair work done, I had to have a cleaner come in and thoroughly clean the house. Now, it was not bad, but it was enough that, like I said, for the rent we're going to charge, people want it sparkling clean, and I do that with all of the properties. Cleanliness is next to godliness, and when people are moving in, they expect clean, and they should. So now, what did all that took 2 weeks. All of that I just told you took 2 weeks. Now here's a breakdown of the costs. The handyman that did most of the grunt work, he got paid $300. My cleaner got paid $200. The tear out and replacement of half of the floor cost $1,400 installed. The garage wall and the door cost about $400. To paint the shutters and the doors cost about $200. I had to buy a power washer, so that cost about $400. The dirt was $150 and the gravel was around $400. I had to buy a 100-foot hose, $75 for this hose. So that all breaks down to $3,625. So in addition to putting down whatever I put down on the house, I think it was around $15,000, I had to come up with another $3,825-ish in cash to get this thing ready to get on the market. We stayed right on schedule. We got it done. It's on the market, and it is currently for rent. So, buying the house is only the beginning. That does not mean you're done. If you're going to buy a house and you're going to either live in it or rent it out, it's best to do the repairs immediately after closing, because I've done them when I moved into them, and when you do that, it always feels like you're living in clutter, and the work never gets done because you always find more. So do it before you move in. Also, if you're going to rent it out, you have to keep in mind who your tenant is. If you're going to rent a little crappy little house to a crappy little couple that's going to pay crappy, then don't spend a lot of time and money. But if you're going to buy a decent little house in a decent little area to a decent little couple for a decent little price, then you're going to have to make the house decent. And I try to do a little bit better. I've been an apartment painter for many, many years, and there's many shortcuts that most painters take, and I've been told all of them. My boss being one of them. My old boss, she wanted me to rush. And everybody that tells me that, I always tell them the same thing. If you were in a mess and you were forced to go live in an apartment, would you like to live in a place that somebody cared about, or some place that they just threw together so they could get your money? I know for me, if I was going to rent an apartment, I would want the apartment to look like somebody cared, that the walls were nicely painted, the carpet was nicely cleaned, there was no gaping holes or patches over doors and windows. Make it like you're going to live there, and you will have no problem renting your properties. Well, the purpose of this video was just to let you know that if you stay on top, if you schedule, if you prepare, you can get a lot of work done in a couple of weeks. And that wasn't using one contractor. That was using 2 or 3 different contractors plus myself. In 2 weeks, we got all of that done. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about. You guys have a great day, a great week, and happy investing.